Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Borderless. I have a very good friend of mine here today with me, and I'm super excited about this episode. It's the first episode I'm shooting since we finished school, so it's super relaxed, it's super chilled, and it's gonna be fun for sure. Welcome to the show, Munashe. It's been a pleasure. I'm so glad you were able to make it here today.
Thank you. I am glad to be here. I think this is such a wonderful idea, and I am so honored that you thought me interesting enough to include in this. So yes.
I think you're one of the most, interesting, the most exciting people to be around. I think that's, of course, that's one of the reasons. So I was like, well, I think you need to. And we haven't really talked much. We've only met in like different settings, but we haven't really sat down to get to know each other. And I was like, who's gonna be on the show next? And I was like, Munashe. I feel like you have such a good story to tell. You know what I'm saying? Like, I see the things you do out there, what you stand for, what you support, and I was like, well, I need you to come on the show. And so I'm so honored. I'm so glad you were able to make it here.
Thank you.
Of course, the pleasure is all mine.
I think it's mine, but it's okay. We can fight about that later.
Later, yeah, but we will. We'll have to. So you are from Zimbabwe.
Yes.
Are you from the capital or?
Yes, I was born and raised in the capital of Harare. Yeah. I have lived in other parts, particularly in Mutare, which is one of my favorite cities in Zimbabwe, but primarily in...
Why is it your favorite city?
Because
you live there?
No, my grandparents live there, and it's in the Eastern Highlands, which is a region in Zimbabwe on the eastern side of Zimbabwe, and it's full of mountains and valleys and rivers and springs, natural springs.
Nice.
It's just the most
beautiful.
It's
nature, kind of.
Yes, it's so beautiful. It's where I want to get married. It's just, it's my favorite place.
That's so sweet.
In the country.
That's so sweet. I've had people on my show who have been here, and including me. And you have all those things back home, but you never appreciate them.
Yeah.
And then you go overseas and you see how people appreciate, and you start falling in love with nature. And when you go back home, it's like, oh wow, I had all this back here. Is it the same for you, or you've always had that place in mind with all the nature it has?
Okay, so I've always loved the place because of just the feeling I would get being there. I said to someone once that I go to Mutare to recharge my soul. Like, literally, I just feel like it gave me a connection that I didn't even know. I didn't even understand what it was about the place that I really loved so much. But just knowing that every time I am there, I'm filled with so much peace and joy, and I feel different.
That's
the
amazing.
Oxygen I breathe is different. So now that I have gone through UWC, studying in America, been around all of these nature lovers, I guess now I can say, okay, it's about the nature. Now I look at it, I'm like, okay, I'm loving the nature, I'm loving all of that. But I don't think I've always been that way.
I see.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of Zimbabweans really don't talk about nature like that. In a very like liberal, let's be tree huggers. Love on the planet like that.
It's a tree and it's a tree.
Yeah. Back home, that's a tree. Okay.
There's nothing more.
Yeah, that's all there is. And
that's a nice flower. Well, it's a flower.
It's a flower. If I will pluck it, I will pluck it. If I don't, I don't.
Absolutely.
And so, I guess now, because I've been exposed to like hyper-environmentalists, which is great, because then you learn from different people.
Absolutely.
And you gain different experiences. And so now whenever I go back, I understand that, hey, what I'm actually feeling is a connection with the nature. So, yeah.
And that's just one of the advantages, one of the benefits of like not just traveling, but meeting people and getting to know people. There's so much we can learn from each other.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I've met people before I went overseas, before I came overseas. I didn't even know what a vegetarian is. Like in my head, it doesn't exist. Like, it's not part of my culture.
Yeah.
But coming overseas, I've not only been able to learn, you know, but I've also been able to respect.
Yeah.
You know, just from their side of their point of view.
Yeah.
You know, so it's so good when you meet people, you get to know them, you get to know what they stand for. You don't always have to agree, but at least, you know, just respect what they stand for. You know, even if it means it's different from what you stand for, but like get to understand why they do what they do.
Yeah,
you know?
I think I agree with you 100%. One of the things that I have loved so much about my growth process, you know, being an international student, living outside, and just being able to experience all of that, is just being able to learn people's belief systems, people's ideologies, just people's thoughts, really. Okay, what do you think? And that's something that challenged me a lot, because growing up in a conservative environment, you sometimes fall into the trap of thinking there's only one way of looking at things.
Exactly.
And it's not wrong, really, to be conservative or to be liberal. There's nothing wrong with either of those. It's just, you can be whatever you want to be, as long as you take the time to learn from other people.
Absolutely.
What they choose to be and
Absolutely.
why, and understand, you know. So there's nothing wrong with being a meat eater. I am 100% a meat eater. But, you know, also taking the time to learn from vegetarians and understand, okay, why are they so passionate about that? What are the benefits of being a vegetarian? Why are you a vegan? What are the benefits of being a vegan? You know, and I might add that I was a vegan for 3 days. A whole 3 days, okay.
So what happened? Now I want to know, what made you decide? What made you decide, and what happened on the 4th day?
Oh, look, by the end of the 3rd day, I was like, look, I don't think God designed me like this. Me as a person, just as an individual, I don't think I was designed. Just my mind, body, and soul. It's funny because I actually took it from a Christian perspective, which is very weird because I had never heard of it. But there's this preacher and singer that I really, really love. And so I was just scrolling through Facebook one day, and she was doing a Facebook Live, and she was just sharing about her experience with veganism from the Christian perspective, and how, because I know a lot of vegans talk about the spiritual transformation that they experienced when they started being a vegan. And she took that from the Christian perspective, and she's like, as a Christian, I felt like I encountered a whole new level of like spirituality in being a vegan. So lo and behold, Munashe is watching this this Facebook Live, and Munashe is like, no, it has spoken to me, you know, no, this is my calling to become a vegan, right? So
you felt the connection.
Oh, I felt it, and so I decided I'm gonna be a vegan, right? So from 100% meat eater to vegan, all overnight, literally. And that lasted for like 2 days. On the 3rd day, I was like, no, God, you're gonna have to speak louder than that.
So those 2 days, what were you eating?
That's the thing. I was living in Dunham at the time, and you know, Dunham doesn't really have a lot of accommodation for other meal types, you know, and like preferences. And so that was probably one of like the biggest challenges I had with my 3 days of veganism. And it was just that realizing how much, you know, how oblivious I was to the fact that people that don't eat what I eat don't actually have all of the options that they would like to have, even just by living in a community or in a particular place. So I then discovered that there weren't a lot of options for non-meat eaters and non-dairy eaters when it comes to food options at residential colleges. And so I would eat a lot of vegetables, fruits, things like that. I also then learned I had to be selective about what types of like pastries and baked things I could eat, because some of them contained eggs, some of them contained milk, and just realizing these things as I was going. I'm like, oh, okay, I can't eat that because and even some things like fries and other things where they preserve them in a specific. And I learned a lot, okay?
Yeah.
And
so you see, that's good. That's
and so I really take pride in my 3 days of veganism because I learned a lot of things.
0 days, like
and just learning about some preservatives that use animal products as part of to preserve certain foods, and realizing just how much goes into our food, and we don't even realize, and we don't even know that something like cheese can have so much like animal traces and things like that. So yeah,
nice. Well, that's good. I mean, at least you did it for 2 days, and that's the thing about trying things. You try things. At least now you know it's not for you. You know what I mean? Instead of always thinking, oh, maybe I should. You went there, you did it. You're like, nah, this isn't for me. So you get to try something else at some point. But that's nice.
Yeah,
that's nice.
And I think it's also, now I can say, just in addition to saying, oh, now I know it's not for me, it's also a good thing to be able to try things out before you say, have an opinion about it.
Exactly.
So I know a lot of meat eaters who'll be like, no, vegans are like this and like that, and veganism is stupid and all of this, and it's like, well, you haven't even given it a second. You haven't even tried it, so how do you know all of
what
these
you're
things
saying.
exactly? And I think there's even a Shona proverb that translates to things exist to be tried. It's it's a rough translation, which basically means things exist to be tried. If something is out there, try it, and then if it's not for you, you can safely say, oh no, this is not for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that was good to know. Maybe I should give it a try too at some point.
You should. Maybe it might actually work for you,
I'll think about it.
Yeah.
So you were from Zimbabwe, and you guys had a financial crisis 5-6 years ago, 10?
Yes.
Some time ago.
Okay, so the Zimbabwean economic crisis is something that people have written about. I wrote about it in one of my as my papers for IB. I think it was my history one. Yes, I think so. And so, to be very honest, the best way to scale it back is to take it back to 98, because that's when really the first meltdown really started to happen, the first economic crash. And I personally would take it back there because ever since 98, we haven't been able to restore the economy back to the levels it was at 98 or before. And so for me, it's from 98, it's been a downward gradient. And sometimes, and there are a couple of years where things have gotten a little bit better, but still within that downward sort of does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And so the major points would be 98, would be 2008, when the entire world had an economic crisis then, but it hit Zimbabwe the hardest. And from 2008, I would say 2019 would be the next. This year, yes. I mean, I'm just talking about highlights here. Highlights. Yeah. I would say 98, 2008, and 2019. Yeah.
So I mean, we saw, or at least I saw, on the news where that was like hyperinflation, and to buy like a loaf of bread, you have to take like $1 million Zimbabwean dollars. Is that true?
Yes.
Like that's just the news, and that's just memes I saw. Like, is that a thing?
After 2008, yes, that was true.
Wow.
Not currently, but after 2008, yes, that was true. Money would devalue overnight. Not even overnight. Within the course of one day, you could have had $5 in the morning, and it was worth $5. And by the afternoon, by the time you get out of school, it was so funny because you get pocket money, right, in the morning, and it was worth a certain amount of money, and you could buy certain things with it. By the time it was like, break time, you want to use that money.
It's chicken change.
Yes, it has devalued, and now you can't even buy whatever it is you would have wanted.
That's insane.
You know, and so the whole thing about buying a loaf of bread for $1 million, yes. In fact, I would say we ended up going to zillions and quadrillions, I think. Do I even remember what's after zillion?
So how much? I don't even know.
I don't even remember, but we went there.
After zillions. Do you go after Z?
I do not remember what happens after zillion, but I am pretty sure we did go.
Wow, well, I guess you...
Yeah. I think it's billions and then quadrillions and then zillions. I think so. Or is it the other way around?
It's billions and then trillions.
Yes, billions, trillions, quadrillions.
Maybe there's something after quadrillions. Maybe.
I just know we got to zillions.
That's wild.
I mean, we're in the Guinness World Book of Records.
Yeah.
So
that's wild.
that was true.
So I mean, you went to school, you had pocket money. How was that like for you, like paying transportation back and forth? I don't know if you took transportation back and forth or you got picked up or something.
Okay,
like just being a student, like how was the daily life?
Okay, I would say this is where my own personal story comes into the thing, and I'm just gonna tell my story as is. But round about that time, or just a couple of years prior to that, my dad lost his job.
Oh man.
And he could not find employment for over 5 years. Yes.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. And my mom has always been a civil servant. She has a passion for teaching, and when she started out teaching, she was teaching at one of the high density areas. So that's where, historically, because of colonization, that's where all the black people were jammed into like the high density areas, and so they're like the ghettos basically. And so not the best education, they're the least funded places, just the usual, the norm. And that's where she has been teaching. She went there because she said, well, if we all go teach at private schools, who's going to teach them? So that was the reason why she went. But when my dad lost his job, that meant, when you're a teacher, a civil servant, first of all, you are the least paid person by government in the country. Secondly, you're a civil servant at a ghetto high school that doesn't give you
everything.
Anything. And so for over 5 years, my family went through probably the toughest season of our life that we've ever had. So when this national crisis happened, that was just in addition to what we were already going through. So when you ask about transportation and things like that in daily lives, my daily life did not look the same as a lot of my peers, because they got to a point where I could not even afford public transportation because my parents just could not. There wasn't any more money for that. And so speaking on just generally, I think people had a respect of, just that understand, because when you're in a crisis together. So generally people had that understanding that, hey, when you left home, this was the price, and life is unfair for everybody. But, which is what I love about being African is, it's different to riding the cart bus here, where the price is the price, and you're either on the bus or off the bus, and there's no negotiations. I think people really did try to negotiate and say, okay, I will help you out, but also help me out, because I need money to buy fuel for this taxi, for this, so I have a family too. I have a family too. And so I understand how frustrating it is for you when you left work, when you left this morning for work, things were different, and now you're trying to get back home and things are different. I get that, but let's find a way where we can meet.
Absolutely.
So I help you and you help me.
Absolutely.
And that's what I remember and I observed, I think, from just that period. And even now, things are still the same. Just the concept of bargaining is. I think it's it's an African thing. We know how to bargain. We know how to just negotiate, especially when it comes to like the informal market.
Yeah, no, we know how to do that for the informal market.
Yes.
But when it comes to formal stuff with African leaders bargaining for the benefits for like the whole continent, then it's something else. It's something else. But that's insane. Like that's actually wild.
Yeah.
So how coming from all that, 5 years and then the crisis, how did you end up at UWC? Like how were you able to? Because I mean UWC is usually for kids who, are doing super well in school. So going through all that, how were you able to maintain your grades, and how were you able to end up at UWC?
God. Man, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. And I say that because he has landed me in places that where I would not, where it doesn't make sense for me, a girl who at some point could not even afford basic public transportation, had to live with other people because my parents could not afford to keep taking me to school back and forth every day and feeding me and my siblings, had to live with family, friends, and just moving from that girl to the girl who got good grades in school, was able to get into a private high school, not because my parents were super rich, but because God literally opened up doors for that. My dad got a job, I think, a year or 2 years before I was supposed to start high school.
Oh, wow.
And my dad's...
High school is in UWC or high school?
High school pre-UWC.
Pre-UWC,
yes.
Okay.
So my 4 years before I went to UWC. And my dad's employer would give them a package where they'd give them a certain amount of money to go to, that would be enough to take your child to a private school if you would like to take a child to a private school. And so my dad was able to use that money to take me to private school, and he always said he sacrificed getting himself the life that he would have wanted. After 5 years of not being employed, you want to finish building your house, you want to get yourself the latest cars or whatever.
Yeah.
He sacrificed. Yeah, you want to catch up with all of your peers, because all of your peers are now managers and directors and all of that. And he still had just like a basic, barely functioning car, and our house even till now is not complete. And because he decided to invest in me and in my siblings so that literally we could be here where we are today. And so God really, he gave me the strength to just, even the faith to say, okay, things are tough right now, but God's got me. God has a plan for me, and I'm going somewhere. And
Absolutely.
He's got a call in my life.
Absolutely.
It's my job to get up and go get it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And just trust that he's laid it out. I have to go get it and aim for the best. And because even getting to the private school that I went into, I had people come and tell me, you won't get in. Like, yeah. Wow. People telling me, even like church people. And so church people are the best. They're the best people. I love them.
She said that the best.
But just they would have an intervention for me because I was too ambitious, and they would get together and tell me, you won't be able to get into this school, it's for the super rich people, your parents don't have that kind of money, also it's for the super intelligent people, you're good but you're not that good, and just things like that, to the point where they managed to convince my parents, because my parents were kind of worried. They're like, okay, if everybody's saying all of these things,
it might be true.
We have faith in our child, but let's just try to see. And they ended up like trying to get me into other schools behind my back. So, but just things like that. God is the one who gave me the courage to be like, okay, I can do this, and
Absolutely.
I trust you that you have a plan for my life. And I
Absolutely.
know life has dealt me a rough deal, but I'm gonna go after the things that
in life, I believe we all have our own share of misery, you know, and for me, it's not. I don't think it's God's plan for us to suffer. I think it's just to make us stronger.
Yeah.
You know, because it's never gonna take you to a level where you're unprepared. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you get through all that, people telling you, "Oh, I don't think you're ready," or "I don't think you can make it," and you make it.
Yeah.
Like you'd be ready for whatever comes next, because people have told you so much, and you literally shut them out.
Yeah.
And then you're here now. You know, and you're like, oh, this is how and you just get that thought where you like, this is how it is in life.
Yeah.
People are gonna like come at you, even though you can make it, they'll tell you you can't.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes it's good things like that happen, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You know, you were able to just, you know, stay focused. You know, see where your family, how far your family has come, and then just being able to move forward.
Yeah, I think even just something that entire period taught me was the power of believing in yourself. Because it's good to take advice from other people, and I've had many other lessons that teach me different things about life, because you know, life there isn't one formula and then when you get it, everything goes smoothly after that. No, there will be times when you believe in yourself and it won't work out, you know? And it won't work out, well, at least the way that you thought it was going to work out.
For
and
sure.
you have people say, I told you so, you know, you should have, but...
And people are always going to tell you, I told you so. Like.
Yes, people are always going to tell you that they told you so. But if I didn't believe in myself, I wouldn't be here. And I think that's one of the things that I learned from that period was believe in yourself. Believe in what God has placed in your heart. Believe in the things that you know you can do, and fight for that. You know?
Absolutely.
You may not always get it, and you may not always come out the best or come out at the top, but fight for that.
Absolutely.
Fight for what you believe God has given you, and fight for what you believe you can do. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so happy for you, honestly.
Thank you.
And you are, like I said, you're one of the most exciting people to be around. And I'm so glad our paths crossed. And you have so much potential.
Thank you.
You know, and I can't wait to see what you'll do, like what God has in store for you.
Thank you.
Honestly.
Coming from you, that's a lot, because you are like Mr. Do It All.
Nah, I try, honestly.
Trying hard. And you're doing good at it, so.
Thank you.
We're all just learning from you, just watching,
please.
taking notes from the sidelines.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
So you went to UWC after all that, you know, how did the UWC education like impact you? Like how did it like open your eyes to see life from a different perspective, basically?
UWC was probably, I would say, the most challenging 2 years I had in my life. And that's because, first of all, IB shook me.
Yeah, IB is tough.
I mean, wow, IB shook me as a person. And just going back to the whole thing of, you know, trying to, and you know, you may fall into this trap of I want to prove people wrong, and you lose sight of, hey, I've got to do what I do for me, and I got to do what I do for my goals and where I want to be for myself, you know, and not for other people. And so a lot of lessons were learned in those 2 years of UWC, a lot of lessons. Academically, it pushed me. Spiritually, it pushed me as well, because I was, for the first time, I was outside my comfort zone of being in a conservative country. Zimbabwe is 80% Christian, and you know that just means 80% of people will fill out on the ballot that they're Christian, and people will talk about God and all of that, but that doesn't necessarily mean everybody is Christian and everybody actually like practices or follows or like really believes. But there was always that unspoken rule that this is a Christian country, and so we abide by Christian standards of things. You know what I mean? And so even if you have alternative to the mainstream culture beliefs or opinions, you know, you would not talk about them out loud. You don't challenge
Keep
the
them to
mainstream.
yourself.
Yes, you keep them to yourself, keep them to your circle, keep them to your, space.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
coming out from that, of like a comfort zone where I never had to question my faith, never had to question my beliefs. It was always just like, it is what it is. And getting to a place where for the first time I was like, damn, I need to think about this again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the first time, having to be like, okay, I thought I was cool, but I need to reconfigure what being a Christian means to me. And I need to reconfigure what being a Christian, what Munashe being a Christian to other people looks like. You know what I mean? And so it really pushed me. I think my UWC experience pushed me. And it pushed me to relate with people better, to understand people better, to just step outside my own head, please. Just step outside your head. Step outside what you think you know, what you think is the correct thing. Just step out of that and get to know people.
They say knowledge is power.
Yeah. And just look at different perspectives, understand different people, understand where they're coming from, and learn to love people where they're at, because you want them to do the same for you. You want people to take you as you are and not, judge you. Like if I say I'm a Christian, I don't want people to automatically judge me and say, oh, so she's like this and she's like that and she's like this. I want people to get to know me and get to know, okay, what does Munashe being a Christian actually mean? And,
absolutely.
Who is she?
Yeah.
And I think you can relate to that. It's like,
I feel like people have their own definition or their own standards of what a Christian is. So the moment you say I'm a Christian and you do something that's outside their definition of what being a Christian is, they start judging you. But like, get to know me. I'm a Christian, but like, it doesn't mean I don't do whatever it is you think I don't do. You know what I mean? Like everyone has, like people have their own definition. Once you say I'm a Christian, for them it's like a box.
Yes.
They put you in that box. But there's so much to that.
Yeah.
And that's why you get to know people and you're like, oh, okay, well, I know why you're a Christian now, and I know like what being a Christian means to you. Because honestly, it's different for everybody. It honestly is different for everybody.
Yeah. And so I think, I agree. Just that it pushed me to step outside my own self, and for the first time I had to question my own self and question my identity and question my beliefs and just question a lot of things. And it's a good and a bad thing. It's a bad thing if you get stuck in a rut of questioning.
Yes.
But it's a good thing because you can't really know the value of something until you have tested it, and until you have questioned it and like put it under the fire, and when it comes out, it's better than when it was before.
No doubt. That's amazing. That's amazing that you went there. It was 2 years, and you learned so many things. You came out there, a better person.
Yeah.
I think that's UWC challenges you, spiritually, morally, physically. Like in whatever way, like it does.
Yeah.
It actually does. IB was tough. It was tough for me. I left Sierra Leone, went to Norway. I'm like, I'm gonna get a 45. Like no doubt, I'll get a 45.
No question.
One semester in, like I'll probably get like a 38 or 40. You know what I'm saying? And then 1 year out, I'm like, whoa. I'll be fine with a 30, 32. And then you're on your last semester. You're like, man, I just want my diploma.
I still don't even have my diploma.
Really?
I didn't even collect it. I was like, y'all can keep it.
Honestly, at the end of the 2 years, you're just gonna be like, I just want my diploma.
I just want,
That's all I want. I wanna leave. I wanna go home.
Just wanna see that part where it says diploma granted, awarded, and that's.
That's all I wanna see. That's all I wanna see. So going back to Zimbabwe with your family for 5 years, your dad was unemployed. Your mom is a civil servant. You went to this international high school. So you've been used to just living with your family for that long. You guys have been through so much, and now you're living in this, private school, international, different people, no mom, no dad, no siblings. How were you able to transition? How was that? Wait, let me my sentence.
Yeah, it's cool. Just like how was that transition for me?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I got you.
Thank you.
It was tough.
Yeah.
When I say UWC was the 2 hardest years for me as an individual, without hardest because of my parents or hardest because of other family drama, just me as just Munashe and myself, those were the 2 hardest years because a lot of things came up that I didn't even know I could feel. And so I suffered from severe homesickness. The first couple of weeks, I never used to talk to anyone. I think it was a homesickness that verged on the border of just like depression as a person. Never used to talk to anyone, always by myself, just extremely sad all of the time. Felt so completely out of place, completely lost, misplaced. And I think I broke after like 2 weeks into the semester. So after the first orientation week, 2 weeks into the semester, I just had a meltdown. Just broke.
Wow.
Completely just, and then after that, it started getting better. Started interacting with people, having friends, and trying to find my space. But I've always been, and this is something about me that I have realized a lot this year. This year has been a transformative year for me so far, and it's only been 5 months.
Hey, that's good.
But it's been a very transformative year. But just realizing that I've always been someone who has been alone, in the sense that both because of circumstance and because of natural inclination, I tend to want to be by myself. And so I tend to not want to stick too close to people. Like we can be close, you can know me, we can chill. Just like that's fine. Right there is fine. Don't come any closer. Just, And so just even now that I'm reflecting on my UWC experience and being away from home, that's something I also struggled with. Trying to find a balance between, oh, Munashe, you gotta let people in now because, you're stuck here. You're not, you don't have family. You don't have the people that you were friends with ever since you were a child, and they've always been around you. You're gonna have to start letting people in. You're gonna have to start figuring out how to relate to people better.
Absolutely.
And so when I said earlier that, UWC taught me how to relate better with people, that's literally why I say that, because it showed me certain things about myself, like, hey, you tend to be alone, you tend to want to be by yourself. And I realized this year that I'm actually an introvert. I talk a lot, very talkative, but on the inside I really am an introvert, and that's why I just prefer being by myself. But it's something that I had to learn to make that transition better, say, hey, you've got 2 lives now. You've got a life back home. You've got a life here. You need to make both things work. And so,
absolutely. And I think you're honestly doing well.
Thank you.
You're honestly doing well.
Yeah.
And like I said, I can't wait to see, the good things you do.
Thank you.
Honestly.
Thank you.
Honestly.
That, no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure
whatsoever. Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a spiritual person?
Spiritual? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel like 60% of what I've said today has been a lot to do with my faith and with my spirituality. But yes, I think I am a very spiritual person. I enjoy having conversations with people that understand spirituality, and I get to explore that side of me. Because I don't get a chance to do that every day and to do that openly, because religion in our current world right now is a very difficult topic, and I completely understand and I completely agree, because I myself don't like religion. And I think I've said this we've had this
Yeah,
conversation before. Yeah.
I think when we went for the music.
Yeah.
The music
And just
thing.
talking about how religion is a man-made set of rules about how to understand spirituality, you know. And so I would say, yes, I consider myself a very spiritual person, but not religious. At least I've been trying over the last couple of years because of my experience in UWC, and ever since then, because, you know, growth is a continuing process. It doesn't
you keep
happen
finding
overnight.
yourself.
Yeah, you don't.
You know, you keep finding yourself all like literally all the time. It's not like, oh, I found myself and that's you'll get lost again.
Yeah.
You know, it's a process, and it's never ending. It's never ending because you always need God. You know, like so it's always continuous.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, when I say this year has been transformative for me, is learning that. And sometimes it's not always that you have lost yourself. Other times there is more of yourself to find. You know, so like what you found, that's great, but there's more of yourself to be found.
Absolutely.
There's more, you know, elements, aspects, greater levels of yourself that need to be found. And
yeah, absolutely. I agree. And in that case, like, what's important to you, like in life? What's important to you?
I think my relationship with God is what's important to me. And I think my relationship with God reveals a lot of things about myself that I need to work on. I was just thinking this morning, I was like, Munashe, you're very bad at responding to texts. And I apologize sincerely to anybody who's ever texted me and I took longer than 3 business days. I apologize.
Apology accepted. I think I fall in that category.
I feel like you do, and I'm sorry. Oh, shame.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
But it's also something that I see with God a lot, because there are times when I can really feel like He really wants to see something, and I'm like, not now.
I see.
Just don't. I'll talk to you tomorrow, maybe. You know, but just my relationship with God reveals to me the healthiness of the other relationships I have around me. So if my relationship with God is not healthy, it tells me that there's something I need to work on, because my relationships with other people then cannot be healthy. You know, because God is the one person who knows me the most, who has got my back the most, who loves me the most. And so if I don't have a healthy relationship with Him, how can I have a healthy relationship with other humans who have flaws just like me? You know.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I think we've exhausted a lot of the questions.
Which is cool, because now we get to talk about just like random stuff.
Yeah. I mean, do you have questions for me? Like,
yes, I actually would like to ask you a couple of things, because I feel like I've got time. But what's next for Michael Benga?
What's next for me? That's a good question. Honestly, you know, I'm moving to Philly.
Okay. Hey. Okay.
Yeah, I'm moving to Philly. I have family there, my cousin. So I'm just gonna move there and look for jobs. Yeah, look for jobs there. I don't think there's anything more I can do in Oklahoma right now, at least for now. You know what I mean? Like, I need a new environment. I need a new environment. I need a new challenge. So I'm just gonna move to Philly and see what, you know, I can find there, basically.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I liked how you mentioned that you don't have anything left for you to do in Oklahoma right now. And I think it's important, really, just to be aware of your growth to that point where you say, and not just with like a place, even with your relationships, even with some of your own habits, to say, I'm no longer growing with this person in my life. I'm no longer growing with this habit. I'm no longer growing in this area, and so I need to move.
Absolutely.
I need to shift.
Yeah. Yeah. Like just like I said before UWC. Before I left, I'm gonna get a 45. You know, because I feel like I've mastered almost. I wasn't like at the top of my class, but you know, like I was always having good grades. I was always there, top 5, top 10. in class. You know, so I was like, I've mastered this. Going to UWC should be easy.
Should be easy. Oh,
you know.
yes.
So I'm like, whatever it is back home, I know I can conquer. I know I have mastered. But then you go to UWC and it just humbles you.
My friend, it sat me down. It was like, auntie, sit down. Sit down, auntie. Just sit.
Yeah. So, you know, like, at some point, you just move on, go to a new challenge. By the end of the day, look where we are now. You know, even though it was challenging, even though it was hard, we just kept on. We just kept moving on. We just kept pressing on, you know, and we're here today, you know. So you just have to keep on finding new challenges for yourself. You know, and that comes with self-discipline, and it's so hard. We're young, we have time, you know. There's like so many things we could be doing, clubbing, you know, partying, drinking, like whatever it is, like just sitting down all day watching TV. You know, so for you to actually be able to say, oh, I want to improve my life, like I want to, like, finding a challenge for yourself to do at this age is so hard. And especially if you want to do it every single day, you get tired. You get super tired of just because sometimes you see yourself just doing it, you see your friends doing other things, and you're like, why am I the only one doing this? You know what I mean? Like, so
I could be doing whatever else everyone else is doing.
So it's hard. It's just hard to challenge yourself, but you have to. If you want to grow, you know, you have to move outside your comfort zone, find something challenging, and that's the only way you grow. You know, if you find something, you know, I was listening to TD Jakes the other day, and it was like, get yourself into trouble that money can't get you out of. You know, like, if you say, oh, let me give you $2,000, and it's a no. You know, like, let me give you $1,000, and it's a no. And those and try to get out of it some other way. And it was like, those are the situations, those are the things that are actually going to help you, you know, learn things. Because doing things the hard way, it's hard. Because it's a hard way. But
really? I hadn't figured that out.
You know, but it's gonna help you. It's gonna help you grow instead of just, you know, trying to like take the easy route. Like, you grow when you do hard things. Like it's just how it is. You know, so we have to keep on challenging ourselves every single day. And you have to be consistent. And that's hard. Being consistent, it's hard.
And I'll also just add that part of growing is learning how to take L's, okay? Learning how to take L's. And that's something that, I took my biggest L with IB, Shem, because, you know, and this is, like I said, life is a growing process. And so there's certain things in my growth that I am super proud of, and certain things that I'm not so proud of, and certain things that I'm like, let's not talk about that. But, you know, throughout IB, I always had this, you know, this faith that, no, things will be better. I just need to keep pushing harder, right? And things will get better. And even right up to the end. And when those results came, they were like, no, not what you thought was going to happen, no. And that was my biggest L, but that also then pushed me into thinking, okay, it's not every time where you have to keep pushing harder. It's not all the time that you have to, because consistency is great, because consistency is a key to like really getting results. But sometimes it's learning whether to do things the hard way, in terms of like just pushing harder, or what really is the smart way to be doing this. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You know how they make that distinction between studying hard and studying smart, right? You know, should I stay up all night to do this thing, or, you know, for like the whole week, or should I readjust my time management and you know, make sure I'm being effective? That's not to say all-nighters are not necessary. If you're a college student and you haven't pulled an all-nighter, I don't know what college. Are you even a college student? Let's talk about that. I don't even know what you are. Please, you don't qualify. But it's knowing and being able to be truthful with yourself to say, okay, is this a moment where I need to push harder, or is this a moment where I need to stop and reevaluate and reconsider and reconfigure what I'm doing?
Absolutely.
And it's okay. And challenging yourself can even mean challenging yourself to know how to retreat and how to take L's and be like, okay, I'm going to take this L for now, but it will help me get to where I actually want to go. And that's a way of challenging yourself.
Yeah, even as basic as saying no, you know, like that's like it could literally
say no.
Yeah, it could literally be anything, you know, but at least challenge yourself to become a better version of you.
Yeah.
Like we have so much potential only if we work hard, if we stay consistent, and if we keep on challenging ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's every day. You know, it's the little things you do every day that actually builds up and, you know, make this Munashe in the next 5 years, or this Michael in the next. It's what you do today.
Yeah.
You know, but people want like automatic results. You know, sometimes they're like, oh, I've been doing this for 2 days and I haven't seen anything. Well, it's 2 days.
Oh my goodness. What you're saying, I was actually just watching a sermon by Pastor Mike Todd. I don't know if you've heard about him, but like he's like
I don't think I have.
He's this really cool pastor, like really cool millennial type pastor. He's great. But he just said, like the sermon I was watching before I came here, he literally just said, people do things for like a week and you're trying to fix an issue you've had for 10 years. And you're like, God, why haven't you done anything? It's well, it's been a week, you know? So, I just think my, you know, summary things that I think I have learned is that growth is a continual process. And you have to be always willing to push yourself outside of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
And outside, like, and comfort zone doesn't necessarily mean the place where you retreat to like feel safe. It could be a level where you think, okay, no, at this level I'm good. You know, this level of academics, this level of like leadership, this level of just the things, the way I do things, and pushing yourself to say, okay, I can learn how to do something else and do things better.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, this was good. Two more questions and then is it two? Yeah, two more questions.
Okay.
What are your future plans? That's the first one.
Hey, what's the time frame for this future? Are we talking
short
term?
I mean like long term.
Long term? Okay. My long term plans are to get a master's, preferably in public health administration.
Right.
And then work in policy adjustment, policy advocacy, just work in policy in the health sector.
Why do you want to do all that?
Because there was a point when I wanted to be a doctor and I realized I'm not cut out to be a doctor. I am cut out, however, to decide what doctors should and should not do, and what health providers should and should not do, and what the state should and should not do when it's providing healthcare to people. I am better at talking about medicine and health and all of these things than I am at actually being in a theater room and cutting someone open. You know, you have to be honest with yourself about these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to be honest.
Absolutely.
And so,
absolutely.
And I'm, like I said, I'm grateful for my growth because in realizing my strengths and weaknesses, I was able to say, I am interested in medicine, I am interested in that, but I think I'm a much better analyzer.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I'm much better at advocating for certain policies and adjusting policy and all of that than I am at actually
for sure
operating on someone.
For sure.
And so that's sort of like one of my long-term goals, but eventually I want to be able to make lasting change for Zimbabwe and for Africa as a whole, and I want to work not just with other organizations within the country and within the continent to literally make a better world for Africans and for Zimbabweans, but I want to make a better place even economically and politically for my continent and for my country. And so I eventually want to work in the Foreign Affairs Ministry, and you know, planning to get there and planning to one day be the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So
that's amazing.
We'll see how that goes.
No, honestly, I feel like you can get there. I know you can get there if you put in the work. Like I said, you have so much potential, and I honestly can't wait to see. I feel like you'd be a good policymaker. You have people at heart, and you're smart, you're wise.
Thank you.
So I feel like you definitely be the change. Zimbabwe needs, Africa needs. So I can't wait to see you. Do the things you cut out to do, for sure.
Thank you.
For
It
sure.
makes me feel better about myself.
Well, I'm glad I was able to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, the last question. So, for people out there who have been through a similar situation as you have, or just everyone in general, like what advice would you have for them about life and just about stepping outside your comfort zone, about just challenging yourself?
I would say take time to get to know yourself. Take time to get to know you, because you really can't do anything effective if you don't know why you are you, why you exist, what purpose you have been placed here on this earth for. Like, what is your relevance in this world? Take time to know that. Take time to ask yourself these questions, and from there draw out what you will do. If you know that I was put here because I have something to contribute in the arts industry, and I was made to be a creative, that's who I am. It won't be hard for you to go out there and push for your purpose, because your purpose isn't just a hobby or a career, it's your identity.
Absolutely.
So you can't challenge yourself, because everything you do must feed back into your purpose. So when you challenge yourself, you're reminding yourself, this will make me better at being me. This will make me better at fulfilling what I was supposed to do, what I am meant to do, because that's who I am. And so I think it all just, like, all of it, everything just comes back to know yourself.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Pleasure is all mine.
I had fun.